at 13 years old, I looked at it like I heard somebody speak Greek for the first time, and I wanted to learn how to speak that language. And my wife is Greek, and I must say I speak it pretty damn good now, especially the swear words. So as we have gone into business at Playtone, the desire has always been, look, everybody will think they know the nature of what we're putting up on screen, but no one is going to know how we're going to do it. No one is going to be prepared for the new place that we will take them. And the battle, I think, always is to get to that new place in the story. That is the original take.
You've worked with some incredible directors and obviously actors. Steven Spielberg, Ron Howard. Can you take a little bit from each one of them?
Jonathan Demme.
Yeah. Can you take a little bit from each one of them?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I was very lucky to be an actor and get my training at the Great Lakes Shakespeare Festival, Cleveland, Ohio. It was now the Great Lakes Theater Festival because Shakespeare, he didn't have the bandwidth of theater back then. In which we were expected as professionals to do a number of things. We had to show up on time. Our union would dock us if we did not show up on time. We had to know our words. We had to know the text. Otherwise, we would get in trouble with our own union. But we also had to have ideas to bring forward to it. I know Dan Sullivan, one of the directors at the time, he's very successful. He does all sorts of things on Broadway and around the world. He said, hey, look, you guys got to come in with ideas. There's 30 of you in this play. You guys got to have ideas of what you're going to do up here. If you're just going to look at me for explanations, come up with something. He was mad at us that day. So we all came up with something. But we also learned that you did not have to like the person you were working with, but you did have to respect their way of working. You had to respect their technique. You had to respect them for the hours that you were on rehearsing together in order to make the show alive, and certainly playing it on stage once the show opened. And I think that's a type of work ethic that I don't know if you can actually grasp it if you haven't had that demanded of you for 3 or 4 or 5 years. Now I've had that, and so when I go to work with any number of these directors who all work completely different, have completely different ways of approaching it. Some of them rehearsing very specifically, some of them don't rehearsing at all. They have all sorts of different ways in order to make the movie. Well, I think I'm incredibly flexible in order to throw myself into whatever is necessary because I respect the great demands that are placed on me by as a professional. I show up on time. I not only know my words, I have an idea of what to do with them. And I have a concept of things that director can't even imagine that I'm going to show him or her at the time. So it's just the nature of it.
You've taken some risks in your career, including coming here today. But is there a moment, was there a moment like this is going to be a huge risk and what you learned from that?
Look, the whole thing is risk. Every time you go out, every time you take a check, every time you say, I'm signing up, you are taking a huge, huge risk in order for it to be valid or to be a waste of time. That's the thing that comes at the very beginning of every sort of project. I know that when we were making, say, for example, a film like Forrest Gump, thank you. I was sitting around with Bob, and that was the first time I ever worked with Bob Zemeckis. And we were sitting on the park bench in Savannah, Georgia. We were trying to make sense out of this huge amount of work we had to do in only 2.5 days. I had so much dialogue, I had so many scenes we had to do. We actually started with all of the words on cards set up just off camera. It was like shooting I Love Lucy. You had 3 cameras shooting all at the same time. And I said, hey Bob, is anybody going to care about this idiot sitting on a park bench with a suitcase? He said, I'm down to walk on a minefield. It's a minefield. And that's the absolute truth. There is huge risk of wasting the audience's time and the investor's money every time you go up and try to do something. Now that being said, in the management of like an individual career, I can only say that I took probably a bit of a risk when I finally just said, there's a type of role I'm not going to play anymore. You know, the young guy who falls in love with a thing, and it confuses his life, and he's a young guy, and he can't figure it out, and how come the girl doesn't like him? And I did that right about the time I sort of became a man. I was about 35, 36. I had 2 kids, and my life could no longer relate to some dude who's, you know, can't figure out how to fall in love with a mermaid or whatever. Not to take it any quicker. But that was at that time, it was a very lucrative model for making movies in Hollywood. Well, yeah, I know. You know, there's a lot of, I could have worked for another, you know, I could have made 90 movies of that ilk, and it would have robbed me of any sort of artistic authenticity. So at one point I just said, just take those off the desk. I don't even want to do those type of things anymore. And I think the next film I was able to do was League of Their Own.
Obviously, you're